Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Are you going to spy on me all day? Naruto mentally grinned in amusement when he felt a slight flare of chakra coming from the Chibi-Itachi hidden in the trees. His grin widened when he noticed that the chakra lowered even further. The brat was smart. He didn't come out immediately and instead tried to make his chakra even more unnoticeable, probably hoping that he would disappear from his radar. Certainly a better approach than my own at that age. He had to admit, thinking back to the loud and direct confrontations that he had always preferred. He's hiding his chakra pretty well. Genin level? He estimated. At least, Obito confirmed. He's called a prodigy for a reason, you know? He reminded the blonde, while he was still buzzing with energy in his head from the chakra that he had absorbed from the tree before. And he has seen war. At that age, Naruto shuddered. That certainly teaches someone to be more paranoid. How old is he at the moment anyway? He questioned, thinking of the war-hardened and icy Akatsuki member that he had fought a couple of times in the future. The man had always appeared to be so emotionless. How young had he been when he had been forced to fight for the first time? He is 5 years old, I believe. He will turn 6 in a couple of months. Are you going to call him out yet? I really want to talk to him. Obito answered, obviously impatient. 5 years? Well, that certainly explains his future behavior. Naruto thought, pondering what kind of psychological hit the war must have been for the young child's mind. Sakura would surely know. He mused with a sad grimace. Shaking his head and pushing his dear memories away, he mentally nudged the hyper Uchiha who was distracting him and making it difficult for him to appear calm and collected. You will need to calm down first, brat. My chakra is making you somewhat high, Naruto observed with a frown. Besides, if we don't want to draw attention on us, it would probably be better to ignore him and leave. What? Why? Obito protested incredulously. No. We have to keep ourselves hidden from the Uchiha clan. There must be a good reason if Dad and Gigi haven't let our return from the dead be known to your clan yet. Besides, with the treatment that you got, do you really want? I know. I don't really care about that anymore. Naruto didn't comment about the white lie that he heard. I only care about Uncle and Auntie and Itachi. He is my little nephew. Obito protested. Naruto sighed. Obito imus. I just want to see how he is holding up. Obito pleaded, sending him a wave of emotions that made it difficult for the blonde to refuse. Naruto slipped back into his mindscape for a moment, just to scrutinize his partner. Fine. He relented as he had done so thoroughly. But make sure that the rest of the Uchiha clan won't find out. Well duh, what do you take me for? Obito shot back, though his eyes shone with relief. Don't be so rude, Naruto chided as he rolled his eyes and playfully whacked him on the back of his head. Grinning, Naruto quickly slipped back to consciousness before the Uchiha could retaliate. Naruto, Obito whined. He was ignored. Well, I guess we will just have to wait until his curiosity gets the better of him. He is pretty patient, Obito warned. Naruto snorted. He is still a child. You don't know him as well as I do, the Uchiha argued with a huff. Not at the moment, no. Naruto agreed. But he will want answers. Grumbling under his breath, Obito finally agreed to wait 5 minutes for the chibi to come out of hiding. Taking a deep breath in his meditation, Naruto couldn't help but enjoy the natural chakra that made him feel a little lighter and aware of his surroundings again. He focused on the grass and the trees moving in the wind, the animals of the forest moving about. He had missed this tremendously. Obito, curious as to what this so-called natural chakra actually did, observed his actions and shivered when he felt the chakra as well. Right at that moment, Obito could pinpoint Itachi-kuin's hiding place up in the tree almost immediately. His nephew was slowly moving, trying to get to a spot that would give him a better view of the stranger meditating in the woods. That is so. He couldn't find the right words to describe the feeling that he was experiencing. Refreshing, the blonde opted with a grin. Addicting, Obito admitted. Naruto's grin was replaced by a frown, seeing yet another sign that Obito could possibly become addicted to the chakra rush. It reminded him of a few ninja that became addicted to soldier pills in his own future, a very dangerous addiction. Drawback then, we can't have you become addicted to my chakra, Obito-kun, he told the boy sternly. Reluctantly, Obito obeyed his advice and distanced himself from Naruto's chakra and focused more on trying to sense the chakra of his nephew on his own. He was aware of the consequences that any addiction could have, death being one of them. He's moving. Yes, sneaky little nephew you got. Heh, I'm better. He cornered me to teach him after I had played a prank on one of the clan members. Obito bragged, grinning as he thought back to the bright neon pink paint that had completely covered two Chunin. Naruto chuckled as he saw the image appear. We should go pranking sometime, he said with a mental grin which Obito easily matched. Naruto suddenly had difficulty keeping a mischievous grin from his face. Naruto. Obito prodded after a while. Are we really going to wait for him to react? Rolling his eyes, Naruto subtly checked Obito's state and was satisfied to see that the rush had mostly worn off. Still, he was certainly going to keep an eye on him. Fine. He admitted, canceling his chakra and slipping back in order to interact with Obito a little easier. Glancing over to the tree in which they had last sensed him, he flashed him a grin. Do I need to ask again? Itachi. The young Itachi up in the tree shivered slightly as he saw the stranger's face morph into a grin. It was a very familiar mischievous grin, which only increased his curiosity but also unsettled him at the same time. He had barely been able to spot it, seeing as it was barely visible underneath the red scarf that hid the lower part of Ninja's face. The eye patch and the bandana also made him suspicious. The cheeks and the curve of the figure's eye, however, had showed the young Uchiha that the stranger was certainly grinning. Why? Had he been spotted? He frowned, knowing that he had been trying very hard not to make any sound, just like his Obito and II had taught him before his thoughts turned sad and he forced himself to think about something else, like the stranger that reminded him of someone. Strongly. Obito ni. No, he was gone. He twitched slightly as he saw the stranger break out of his concentration and glance over to him. Do I need to ask again? Knowing that his second attempt at slipping away had failed, he let himself drop from his hiding place, but he stuck close to the base of the tree, should he have to hide again. He wasn't sure how this stranger would react to his presence. Was he even a leaf ninja? He couldn't see any form of identification. His dark eyes narrowed. His father always told him that shinobi were required to wear some sort of identification. Who are you and where is your identification? He demanded, imitating the authoritative voice of the police cops like he had been showed to do. The stranger stared at him wide-eyed. He didn't immediately get a reaction from him, which was odd. It was as if he was thinking very hard. Taking the time to study the boy, he suddenly felt a pang of sadness. This boy reminded Itachi so much of him. But he was dead. They had said that he was dead and some looked like they didn't even care. Why didn't they care? Itachi had nearly cried. He hadn't, of course, but no one else but his aunt and uncle had looked sad. Sure, Obito was a loser sometimes, but Itachi had liked his presence. It was his personality. It was light. It was bright, reminding him of sunny weather. Plus, He never expected anything from him at all well besides hugs. The boy always tried to hug Itachi. Even though Itachi acted like he didn't want to be hugged, he missed those hugs. Even the flicks to his forehead were now gone. "Hey brat, are you all right?" the stranger questioned, staying in his lotus position as he regarded him. Reining in his emotions, Itachi chided himself for showing them in presence of the stranger. His father said not to use the mask, he reminded himself, forcing his facial expression to go blank. "Brat, that is creepy." The man laughed at him, which caused Itachi to twitch. "I'm trying really hard," he thought in annoyance. "And he is laughing at me. Who did he think he was? Who are you and where is your identification?" He repeated slowly, emotionlessly, though he twitched as he saw the teenager's grin become even wider, though it suddenly looked sadder as well. "Why? Sheesh, little kids these days," the red-scarfed boy complained, shifting himself out of his meditation pose. As he stood up, he put his hand into his pouch. At the move, Itachi tensed almost automatically, putting his weight on the balls of his feet to argue. "Calm down, brat. I'm just showing you my head protector. Paranoid much?" Itachi didn't know why this ninja talked to him like that, nor did he know why he could read his expressions so well. He had been training for months with his father to attain the emotionless mask that the Uchiha were famous for. Even his teammates sometimes had difficulty reading his emotions. Now this rude boy came along and was suddenly able to read him like only his mother could? Who the hell was he? Itachi didn't answer, nor comment about it though. Instead he let out a soft huff. "You are on grounds that are property of the Uchiha clan. Therefore it is my duty to make sure you are not a threat. Now who are you?" he said, reaching for his kunai pocket in a threatening fashion. Instead of giving him an apology like he had almost expected, seeing as the Uchiha clan was well known and respected, the boy just laughed at him. "Nice try, brat. But the clan ground starts from there," the teenager said, pointing to the tree that Itachi had dropped from, and then drew an invisible line at another to Itachi's left. "This is all part of the outskirts, so you don't actually have the right to demand anything from me." The stranger was right, which unnerved Itachi more than he let on. How did he know that? Who was that? Feeling uncomfortable, the young academy student growled slightly under his breath. This stranger was pushing his buttons. No, he told himself, why was he letting him push his buttons? He shouldn't care about what he was saying. "Still, that doesn't mean I am not a Konoha ninja," the boy told him, once again grinning. "Here." He showed Itachi his headband. Trying to activate his unmastered Sharingan for a moment, Itachi scanned the headband and the man in front of him. Well, the headband looked real. He probably was. His eyes widened, and for a mere second his Sharingan did appear before it died out. It made him slightly dizzy, but he was too distracted with his findings than to pay attention to it. Had that been his Sharingan? "You managed to activate it already?" the stranger in front of him whispered in shock. "Hey, you really are a genius. It will take a while for you to master it though." "What is wrong with your chakra?" Itachi blurted out, not paying attention to what the ninja said. "You!" He trailed off as the wheels in his head started spinning. The teenager obviously tensed. "What are you talking about? Just because you are able to flash your Sharingan for even more than half a second at that age doesn't mean that everything you see is true, little genius." The latter was obviously sarcasm. "So now you have checked on me, can I go back to my meditation?" His tone changed at the question, becoming a little more nervous. Itachi didn't say anything. Instead he drew closer, somehow not afraid that the boy in front of him would strike him, as he remembered with shock the bright chakra had been running through the young teenager. "It's so bright," he muttered, eyes narrowing. "My teacher said that is nearly impossible for someone as young as you are." He frowned, remembering that he had also seen something at the ninja's neck. A seal. Weren't those drawn on people who were being watched? The stranger rolled his eye, drawing his attention to the scars that surrounded his eye.
Listen, Itachi-kun.
Said boy's eyes narrowed at the name. So the stranger did know him? There have been circumstances for my chakra to become like this, so it is not a big deal. I'm not an imposter or anything. Now stop poking your curious little nose in other people's business. He chided, moving his hand forward before he flicked him on his forehead. Itachi froze as he felt the finger make contact with his forehead. The manner he had done it, the speed, even the spot he had been hit, it all matched. It suddenly dawned on him like 1,000 bricks. He knew him. His eye was exactly the same color and that grin. Even his height seemed to match.
Obito ni.
He stuttered in shock. The dark eye widened. Sorry, what? The apprehension that the young boy felt made him freeze for a moment. The voice had sounded so full with disbelief. Was he right? Could it be his cousin? What if he wasn't? Would people be angry with him? Chibi-kun. Snap out of it.
Chibi-kun.
Obito called him that sometimes as well. Suddenly feeling a lot more determined, the young prodigy charged forward, determined to grab the scarf that was hiding the boy's face. If it really was his cousin, why hadn't anyone told him? The young child expected to be blocked, so with a jump he kicked out to keep the boy's arms occupied as he reached for the scarf. The teenager had seen it coming, however, and easily pushed him away from the red shawl and jumped back.
Sneaky brat.
It's rude to attack people like that. You are rude too. The 5-year-old shot back childishly without even thinking and ran towards him once more. It was not difficult for him to fight. He had been training since he could walk. He just had to follow his instincts and grab that stupid scarf to prove his theory. Point taken. Possibly his cousin shot him an amused look as he dodged around the clearing, staying away from the Uchiha ground the whole time. He managed to get close once, but Obito, he felt surer with every passing minute, caught him off guard by sweeping his feet from under him. He flipped back, but before he landed on the ground in a crouch, a hand caught the collar of his shirt and he was momentarily helpless. Waving his arms around in surprise, he stared with wide eyes at his cousin standing in front of him. Who is holding me? He thought with some panic. Had his father caught him fighting, he would have yelled at him normally. Craning his neck, he was surprised to see a solid copy of Obito behind him, holding the back of Itachi's shirt to keep him off the ground. He tried to kick out, but it didn't work. Solid, he questioned, looking at the one in front of him. However, instead of a smug face like he had expected, the teenager seemed surprised as well. In fact, he was practically drooling at the solid clone that saw in front of him. Cool. He even caught Obito mutter under his breath. Huh. Obito was so weird. Itachi was confused but decided to take advantage of the distraction. Reaching into his shirt, he took out the kunai that he had hidden there and stabbed the clone in the arm. He heard a hiss from behind before, poof, the clone disappeared. Hey, what if that had been the real me? Obito complained, his voice suddenly far more familiar than before. Well, you should have seen it coming, Itachi huffed, throwing the kunai towards him, which was caught easily. Ma, so cheeky, Obito complained, scratching his cheek. And stop calling me Obito. The 5-year-old's eyes narrowed, determined to take him admit that he was in fact Obito.
No.
Take off your scarf, Obito and I. He demanded instead, pointing at it. He didn't really care about sticking to the emotionless facade anymore. Instead, his cheeks got a little red from the tension he was feeling. His cheeks puffed, he absently stomped his foot on the ground. A glimmer of amusement entered the wide eye. There was a long silence, though, and the eye lost focus for a moment. Obito frowned, shook his head, and then grinned at him. Well, and here I thought you had turned into a little stuck-up ice prince. Ni-san. Stop calling me that.
No.
Itachi was taken off guard when the teenager suddenly sprinted towards him, chakra enhanced, and flicked him on the head once more. Tell me, brat, who is Uchiha Obito? He asked, causing the young boy to frown in confusion. Itachi slowly relaxed his fighting stance as he saw that his cousin was simply waiting for him to answer. You are. Itachi told him dryly, not understanding why he was asking him such a silly question. There was a short silence in which Obito's eye frowned once more, as if indecisive about what to do. His eye expression turned slightly moody as he shook his head. Itachi couldn't help but be confused by his strange behavior. What is wrong with him? Obito is your cousin. He was part of the Uchiha clan. He died in a mission. He is now a shadow. He needs to be in the shadows right now. He urged the boy to understand. The boy who stared at him with wide eyes. But you are right here. It was a slightly difficult concept for such a young boy to grasp, even though he was the rookie of the academy student. He couldn't quite understand why Obito was hiding from his clan. Why am I not taking my scarf off? Obito tried. Because you want to keep your identity secret. Itachi answered easily and frowned as a sudden thought came to him. You are undercover? Obito grinned at him, though the feeling that was supposed to be behind it didn't quite reach his eyes. Something like that, yes. Itachi regarded him with a pensive expression. You are not doing a very good job by telling me Nissan, he dryly told the ninja, whose sweat dropped at the comment. Don't change the subject, Tachi. His cousin complained, crossing his arms as he regarded him more seriously. Obito is dead, he repeated. But you are just Heedy Dash. He quickly shut up as Obito waggled his finger at him. Answer wrong and I will flick your forehead again. It seemed to threaten. Now, what happened to Uchiha Obito again? He questioned the academy student. Itachi frowned but answered the question like he knew Obito wanted him to answer. He's dead. The young boy felt suddenly a little shaky. Tears were building up behind his eyes, but he kept them back firmly. He was not going to cry. Looking at the ground, he clenched his fists. Uchiha Obito is dead. But if his cousin couldn't be his cousin anymore, then who would bother him with hugs? Obito and Naruto. Is this really necessary? Obito questioned, obviously uncomfortable with the idea to proclaim himself to be dead, as he watched his favorite little nephew break down ever so slightly. As much as the chibi tried to hide it, he was able to read him very well. He needs to understand that he has to keep quiet about us. Naruto shot back, frustrated with himself. He shouldn't have given in, letting the two talk. Instead, he should have left as soon as possible. No matter that the kid was 5 years old, he was Uchiha Itachi of all prodigies. Of course, he had to have spotted his chakra by some fluke incident. Damn it. Well, at least he now knew that he would have to be careful with hiding his chakra from the Uchiha and Hyuga clans. Obito twitched uncomfortably as he felt the frustration of his mental partner and subtly tried to gain once again control over their shared body. Naruto didn't put up a fight at all, but kept brooding nonetheless. It unnerved the Uchiha slightly, having seen him deep in thought before but never actually brooding of all things. Why are you surprised, Gaki? You should know by now that when you try to place a limit on your actions that you always go over them, positive and negative. The fox grumbled, putting in his 2 cents. Oh, go and clean your fur or something. Naruto shot back with a huff. Rolling his eyes as the two started arguing, with Naruto acting more like his usual loud self, Obito focused on his little nephew who was thinking really hard to understand what Obito was saying. Uchiha Obito is dead. It hurt to hear his favorite little brat say those words out loud with the choke-filled voice he had. Not even thinking about his actions, he drew closer to his nephew. Itachi started slightly when Obito took a few steps closer to him, crouched down and then slowly encircling his arms around the young boy, causing him to tense. For now, Obito whispered under his breath, waiting for Itachi to relax his body. It took longer than he had expected though, which worried him. What had happened to his cute little academy student cousin? For now, he repeated, squeezing the boy, that doesn't mean that you can't make a new friend. They stood there for a while before Itachi spoke up. You can let go now. Obito smirked. Who said that I want to let go? Obito and I. The exasperated tone made the older Uchiha feel slightly better. Let go. Not before you hug me back. Itachi glared at him as he realized that he had been tricked. Don't act like you don't like it, Itachibi. He emphasized the last nickname. Don't call me that, Itachi protested. Obito just laughed. With a sufferable sigh, the young boy wrapped his arms around his waist and hugged him back. He quickly drew back again, though there was a tiny bit of reluctance in his actions. The one-eyed boy smirked when he felt the boy push against his grasp. And, before you promise me something. Itachi glared up at him for tricking him. Last condition before releasing me? Yes, Obito agreed with a grin, but Itachi didn't look convinced. Promise. Rolling his eye, Obito let out a sigh. Promise. Well, what kind of promise do you want me make? The academy student asked, subtly snuggling back in his arms. Chuckling, Obito ruffled his hair. I need you to keep our meeting, Obito's existence and my existence, the connection between us which doesn't exist by the way. He shot the boy a pointed look. The fact that we know each other, that you have seen me before and… He was cut off as Itachi slapped his hand over Obito's mouth. I get it, or Nissan. Obito let out a muffled chuckle. Itachi didn't pull his hand away though, which brought another mischievous glint into his eyes. Itachi was about to pull away his hand when he saw it appear, but he was too late. You! He cried and rubbed the saliva on his hand from Obito's tongue using Obito's scarf, who just laughed at him.
No seriously, Itachi-kun.
He told the boy, his face shifting into one that matched his words. Keep quiet about me, all right? This is our little secret. Don't even tell your family. He told the boy with a stern look. Not even my aunt and uncle. Not even your teammates or the ANBU. The Hokage knows about me, but you need to be quiet about me to everyone else. Fine, I promise. Itachi said, looking him in the eye as he said so. Pinky promise. Nissan, how old are you? Older and wiser than you, Chibi. Don't try to change the subject. Obito chided, tugging playfully on his tiny ponytail. Sighing, Itachi wrapped his small pinky around Obito's outstretched one and shook it. I pinky promise with my honor and pride, he seriously stated. Maybe a little too serious for Obito's liking, but it did the trick. Thank you. Slowly the two stepped away from each other and studied each other, and Itachi slowly realized that he probably wouldn't see Obito for a long time. We need to go, Obito. We still need to release some chakra before other people notice. Naruto reminded him. Take care, Tachikun. Obito told the boy. Remember, don't remember me. Itachi pushed his hands in his pockets and smirked. Remember who? He said, causing Obito to chuckle. Oh, I taught you well. You make me proud. He winked at the child, who blushed slightly at the compliment before he tried to make his face blank once again.
Yane.
He said, turning around. Wait. He turned to his little cousin, who was looking up in the air to avoid his gaze. Will you… are you planning to come to my graduation ceremony when I graduate? Obito didn't grin this time, but smiled instead. Of course, he winked as the young boy sweat dropped at the nickname. Of course. Now go back home, your mother must be worried. Hi! Itachi agreed brightly as he scampered off.
Yane ite atibi.
Obito called out just before Itachi disappeared. Don't call me that, Nissan, Itachi shouted back, causing Obito to smile happily. As they walked away, Naruto took back over and flashed through the hand seals that would transport them away. We will see him around Obito-kun, but it is time to train. I know. Wait, does that mean more of your chakra? Not for you, no. Oh, Obito tried not to sound too disappointed. Reaching the last sign, Naruto released a little bit of chakra to transport, just as he heard, Obito, what or why? The teen was already running though. Naruto kept their body from freezing at the voice, knowing that he needed to slip away this time or they would never be able to step up their training. Wasn't that sensei? Obito commented. Yup. He is not going to like this, right? Nope. So are we going to be in trouble, aren't we? Certainly. They appeared in the middle of another training ground far into the outer skits of the village that it would be idealistic for training. Obito hummed, best to make those clones quickly, because sensei will catch up soon. He is kinda very fast. Kinda, Naruto echoed with a snort. Don't worry, I'm already on it. Naruto grinned as he crossed his arms as he charged all his extra chakra, feeling ecstatic that he could do his favorite jutsu once again.
Tahu kagebushin no jutsu.
Almost immediately, tiny poofs of smoke formed in the clearing and hundreds of Obitos appeared, waiting for instructions. Great! First of all, I want you to keep out of sight and keep silent. Should anyone appear or come too close, release yourself, understood. He received many nods. Rushing through some quick training instructions, Naruto quickly flashed through his transportation jutsu one more time, let himself be carried away to a clearing closer to the one he had previously been on. He had only been there for about 30 seconds when there was a flash of light and Minato stood in front of him, his arms crossed and glaring at him. Naruto couldn't keep back the gulp that was forming in his throat. Hi sensei, what are you doing here? Isn't it a nice day? He scratched the back of his head. We need have a quick talk. Need to talk, Obito and Naruto echoed. Those words didn't sound very promising. Even in my days, those words meant that you are doomed. Kyubi chuckled oh so helpfully. Naruto let out a disappointed sigh. I was afraid of that. Minato 2 hours later. If Minato had to say so, the talk had gone pretty well. He guessed that Obito now fully realized that he couldn't just run around anymore. It had also given him the opportunity to study his student for any odd behavior as well, but somehow it only seemed that he was becoming more like the old Obito as more time passed. Are they actually merging? He had been hopeful, but Obito had quickly shot that down when he had asked, but revealed that they could work together more. The theory behind it had been interesting, but not enough to calm him. He had wished that he had more time, but there was an appointment to take care of, so that meant that he would have to leave soon. He would also have to see Kakashi off for his own mission. He was going to be leading his first mission without his presence, and some encouraging words would hopefully make him feel slightly better about leaving Obito. But first, he had another one of his brats to take care of. Listen, Obito-kun, I know that you don't like being supervised, but you know the circumstances. He told the boy as he hopped from tree to tree towards the Hokage Tower. Supervised. His student sputtered. Babysat, you mean? Like you have been doing for the last couple of weeks. We already discussed this, Obito. Don't make me repeat myself. Yeah, unknown seal, unstable, possibly mentally retarded, possible threat, but the threat is too unknown to let go. Obito drawled, waving his hand around his head in emphasis. Minato frowned at the tone. He had hoped that SCA. He mentally slapped himself on the head for keeping the personalities once again apart. The more recent Obito wouldn't be so distrustful toward them. Not that he wasn't somewhat right about the situation though. It's not like that. he told the boy sternly, though not knowing who has done this to him certainly is part of it. He admitted, how unfair it may seem, the only reason why Obito hadn't undergone a more strict protocol so close after the war had ended was because of his close relationship to Minato. His loyal character, Minato's knowledge of the seal that had been in his head, and Inoichi backing him up that there was no disloyalty spotted in his mind. Besides, he also was still a child, and even the fact that he was an Uchiha and close to Kakashi was an advantage for him. He was lucky that Konoha was a ninja village that valued their morals so much as they did, or he would have been screwed. Minato smiled, feeling suddenly much more proud of the village that he would soon come to protect to his fullest extent. The Uchiha sighed tiredly. Minato-sensei, I won't run away. Can you let me go now? Nope, Minato said cheerfully, pushing the moody thoughts away. You might try to run away again. Promise I won't. As soon as we are out of the forest, I will flash yous to the tower. There is no need to waste time. But I'm starting to feel like I have to puke, Obito complained, crossing his arms while Minato literally carried him under his arm, as if he were a sack of potatoes. Then you shouldn't have tried to slip away. Obito huffed but didn't reply. So who is going to supervise me anyway? He asked, parroting Minato's choice of wording from before. Minato could only grin widely at the question. You will have to wait and see. Obito, however, had spotted the wicked grin forming on his sensei's face and craned his neck to take a better look. Why are you grinning like that? He asked suspiciously. He didn't answer the chunin, but chuckled instead. Sensei, the boy tugged on his vest. Even I don't grin like that when I have pranked someone, he voiced, showing an Obito-like curiosity. Nah, tell me sensei, please. The grin widened even more. You will come to like him eventually, the blonde allowed to slip, before he channeled his chakra and disappearing in a flash with his poor student. Sensei, wait, put me down fear. In his arm. Naruto in the Hokage Tower. Obito, because I will be gone for a short period of time with the Hokage for some last training sessions. I found someone to keep an eye on you. I would have have you looked after by Kushina, but she is momentarily on a mission. She will probably look after you when she comes back. But in the meantime, someone else will look after you. Minato ruffled the boy's hair, who glared at him at his little slip. Babysit me, you mean? The young teenager grumbled. Hee. It seems like sweet-talking is not going to work, Minato-kun. A new voice cut in. The ninja glanced over to glance at Obito. You called me back from my super important mission to babysit this brat? The man asked, turning to the Hokage. It is not babysitting. No way, Naruto cried out as he pointed to the familiar figure that had just stepped into the room. He actually needed to take a deep breath in order for him keep him from hugging the man. He's alive. Wasn't he your SE? Obito asked. Yeah, Naruto echoed absent-minded. The newcomer glanced at Naruto for a moment. So this is the little gaki who is loud too, huh? Doesn't look like much. Why you? Obito, be nice, his sensei chided. But sensei, the Uchiha complained, glaring at his father and the Hokage, who were watching the exchange with amused expressions. The older man huffed. No respect for your elders these days. Do you even know who you are talking to? I am the legendary Toad. Yeah, whatever. Naruto cut him off, unsure whether he would be able to handle his emotions if he were to see his future mentor go through the familiar routine. Why you little? Obito, Minato cut in, drawing his attention, his hand rubbing his forehead in annoyance. You remember my sensei Jiraiya, one of the Sannin. Sensei, I have told you about Obito-kun. The two regarded each other openly, and Naruto couldn't help but shiver as he for a moment saw a familiar studying glint appear in his sensei's eyes. He was probably already thinking about the seal in his mind then. If there was one thing that his sensei loved, it was puzzles. Well, besides his books and research then. The man certainly looked younger than he remembered him to be. It was weird to see him like this, but no matter how he studied him, he still was the Jiraiya that he had come to know. Should he tell him what was going on? He would be a very valuable source. That was for sure. He was a noble ninja as well. If he really was the Jiraiya that he came to know, then he would certainly trust him with his life. The time traveler struggled to keep his emotions under control. Still, if he didn't dare to tell even his father the truth of what was going on, we could trust him, you know. Obito argued. I trust Sensei with my life as well. We need to think about this for a while longer. Naruto agreed. We can't tell everyone though. If they for 1 second doubt us, certainly with the whole unstable mentality going about, we could be locked up and we would have a huge problem. Yo brat, I know you must feel honored and overwhelmed to be in the same room as me, but there is no need to space out. Ero-sensei joked with a laugh. Snapping out of his thought, Naruto crossed his arms and huffed. I don't feel like that at all, pervert. He muttered under his breath, but Jiraiya's keen ears heard it anyway. What was that? The Sannin asked, grinning broadly, a familiar glint appearing in his eyes. Oh? Why is he looking at you like that? Obito questioned him, shivered uncomfortably. Damn, I must have shown some recognition. Stupid mouth. Naruto realized, mentally hitting himself on the head. Nothing. He tried to defend himself, but his traitorous puberty caused his voice to go just a little higher than would be convincing. Just so you know, boy, I'm not a pervert. I'm a super pervert. The white-haired ninja made another dramatic pose. He told the boy, patting him on the head. Normally, such behavior would have made Naruto shudder, but he was very familiar with the man. In fact, he was enjoying the feeling of the man ruffling his hair like he had done many times ago during his training trip. He remembered the conversations, the popsicles, the trainings, and the annoying researches. Naruto, don't lose track, please. I can't take over if you space out. Oh, you must have read my first book then. Very sneaky of you. You are a bit too young for that book though, but I can't help that my literature is so entertaining. Wait, what? Flushing red. He seemed much more emotional in this teenager's body. He quickly waved his arms in front of him in denial. I didn't read a perverted book of yours. There was a short silence as he realized suddenly what he had said. It was of no use as Jiraiya was already laughing loudly and Minato gave him another. I will have a talk with you later on. Stupid Ero-S Sannin. He grumbled, catching himself just in time. Well, I guess I will have some time to keep an eye of him, Minato-kun, Jiraiya told the man, grinning. The man shot his sensei a glare. He sighed. Don't corrupt him, sensei. The Sannin simply grinned. Have fun on your last training trip, future Hokage-sama. Don't worry, I will keep him safe. He teased the blond man, as he grabbed Naruto's red scarf, pulled him back. Then he turned to the Sandaime. See you around, sensei. I let you a present in your drawer. Sensei, please, I can't come with you? I will keep quiet. Just please don't let me. Naruto pleaded, putting his hands together as he did. Now let's go, brat. Naruto waved his arms as he was heaved up by his collar and carried away. Wait, I can walk. What is wrong with you people? Struggling against the Sannin was useless as he was dragged out of the window after the man. Ero Sannin. Minato. Why doesn't anyone use the door? The Hokage grumbled as he took another drag from his pipe. The blonde didn't pay him much mind, used to the complaints, but instead stared after the pair that disappeared through the window. I hope I'm not going to regret this. The Hokage chuckled. Jiraiya won't corrupt him more than the boy allows. That doesn't make me feel much better, the ninja muttered dryly. The Hokage chuckled as he stood up. He made a gesture with his hand and a ninja dropped down from the ceiling. Please keep an eye on everything while we are gone. Let me know if anything happens, especially when it concerns the council. He gave Minato a pointed look. I trust that you know to keep quiet about Obito? He repeated gravely.
Hai, Hoket-sama.
Good. Dismissed. He told the man. Turning to his future successor, he smiled. Well, now that is taken care of, let's go. We might even be back in time for you to greet Kushina-chan when she gets back. He told the blonde, a knowing look in his eyes. Perverts, all of you, the blonde complained, but the smirk on his face showed that he was simply amused. Well, maybe there will even be a child in a few months' time, HMMN? Sarutobi prodded with a knowing smirk. Oh, old man. The blush on his face, though, gave away more than enough. Well, let's go, Minato-kun. We don't want to keep little Namazaki-chan waiting, no. No wonder that Ero-sensei is such a pervert. Minato muttered under his breath as he followed the man to the secret training location. Naruto. Meanwhile, somewhere else in Konoha, a certain one-eyed, red-scarfed boy being dragged around momentarily stopped his struggling for a second to achoo. Bless you. Obito told the boy. Someone must be talking about you. Rubbing his nose, Naruto couldn't help but feel surprised. How can anyone talk about me? They didn't have a clue. Where are we going? Naruto complained. He leaned head in his hands while he put his elbows on the man's back in an effort to be a little more comfortable. The bathhouse. I need to do some research. Jiraiya spoke up jovially, freezing the young Uchiha in place. What? Research? Obito echoed. Peeping. Perverted. Naruto grumbled, struggling to get off the man's shoulder that he was hauled over. You know what? I will go and talk with Kyubi for a while. Obito told him sheepishly, and his close mental presence suddenly disappeared. Wait, what? Traitor.
Ero-sanin.
Put me down already. He demanded, but the white-haired ninja didn't pay him any mind. He sighed in defeat. Well, at least his clones would last a while, so the chakra control training could start once again. Maybe he could even get the pervert to train him, he thought with a smirk. He knew exactly how to convince the man. Oh, sensei, you won't know what will hit you, he thought, grinning widely as the ignorant Sannin dragged him along. About a week later. Well, besides being forced to go along with the man's frequent visits to the bathhouse, being babysat by Ero-sensei certainly proved to be very interesting, Naruto thought. Interesting indeed. Interesting and somewhat uncomfortable as well. Maybe even a little nostalgic. He frowned as he felt the man weighing him down to keep him on the ground. A small rock was poking him uncomfortably in his chest, making him twitch in annoyance. He couldn't try to move away easily, as it would only poke him harder. Naruto's hand pulled at the other hand that was covering his mouth, trying to get the Sannin to release him. He wondered if he should to lick it, but his face scrunched up as he suddenly realized that there might be toad slime on there, which saved him from actually licking the hand at the last moment. With a more resistant tug, the hand released him, but not without a quick shoo, being hissed in his ear telling him to be silent. Naruto tried, but after a few minutes he had had enough. His patience might have grown tremendously, but this was just stupid.
Ne, Ero-sanin.
Naruto spoke up, his nose twitching as the grass tickled his nose. Silent brat, we don't to be heard, said Ero-sanin shushed the young ninja again, still effectively keeping him to the ground by his elbow, preventing him from escaping the bushes they were hiding in. The one-eyed Uchiha stifled a tired sigh and didn't argue. He never changes. He thought ruefully, silently enjoying the man's familiar antics, however odd they may seem. This wasn't even that strange. After all, the man above him had thrown him off a freaking cliff once. The stone was still poking him though, so with a little more effort, Naruto finally managed to shift his weight slightly to lie a bit more comfortable. The tightening of the Sannin's grip on his blood-red scarf was a clear warning not to give away their position, but Naruto wasn't planning to do that. It felt good to spend some time with the man that he had lost in the future, even though it was in rather close proximity. Yet, if Naruto hadn't had past experience with dealing with the Toad Sannin, he would have been seriously creeped out by their current compromising position, he absently decided. In fact, he thought with some bemusement, he would have tried to get away as fast as possible. Being the pervert he was. "Will you please stop thinking like that?" Obito complained suddenly. Huh? Naruto didn't understand what he was talking about. "Thinking like what?" he asked, confused. There was a short, awkward silence as Obito didn't reply, before Naruto's eyes mentally widened. "Oh, Obito," he drawled with an amused smirk. "What were you thinking about then?" Naruto teased. "Silly Uchiha." His mental smirk widened as he felt Obito shudder and draw back before he, as casually as possible, cut off the connection between them. Naruto was sure that the Uchiha was suffering from having his mind whisper a few too many innuendos about the thoughts Naruto had been sharing. However, Obito's reaction actually brought Naruto's attention to his own behavior. The teenage body affected him as well during most situations, but his somewhat more mature mind made it easier to ignore the implications of the current situation. He was far too happy to see the man alive than to be bothered by it. Not to mention that he had always been surrounded by perverts like the one next to him, so his resistance had grown tremendously over the 3 years of training. Also, for a high-ranked ninja, body contact often not a big deal. In the future, Naruto had had more than a few moments in missions in which he had been very close to a teammate, whether woman or man, in order to hide from his enemies. You had to be able to ignore your inclination for personal space when the situation called for it. Besides, Jiraiya was the greatest perverted woman lover that he had ever encountered. The sheer thought that now he did shudder was simply impossible. Still, now that Obito had pointed it out to him, the implications that other people would draw when if they stumbled upon them like this would be rather wrong. It was starting to become rather disturbing to him now as well. "Damn it, Obito." The boy didn't reply. "They are already gone, Ero-sanin," Naruto commented after a few more minutes of silence. "Shoo, there was a kunoichi between them. You can't be too careful with those. They don't give up hunting you down for at least a day, sometimes even a week," the older ninja whispered. Though getting a look at her like that would certainly be worth getting punched in the face. Naruto rolled his eyes and matched the volume of his voice. "Can you at least let me go? I think their wrath would be tenfold if she finds you molesting as me as well." The Sannin blinked and he actually seemed to be taken back by that comment. Looking down at the position they were in, Jiraiya's eyes widened, and he immediately let go. He was privately surprised with the kid's casual reaction to how close he had been holding Naruto. They might have spent a week together already and he might like the kid, but they weren't that close. At least he hadn't thought they were. So why did I do that? Jiraiya wondered. I don't remember making the decision to get so close to the kid. Had the kid grown on him without him realizing? The current Uchiha barely saw the thoughtful look that flashed across his face, before the Sannin simply hummed in agreement. Acting as if nothing had happened, he brushed off the fact that he had been caught off guard by the comment. Smiling mentally to himself, Naruto decided to start his plan now that the pervert had been distracted. Besides, shouldn't a ninja as strong as you? Naruto smirked as he saw Jiraiya unconsciously puff his chest as he said it. No more than enough tricks not to get hit by a strong kunoichi. Of course I do. The Sannin defended himself. Like invisibility jutsu? Of course. Transportation jutsu? The man scoffed. Clones and stuff. Well duh. Naruto made it a point to huff at the clone part and mumbled to himself. just loud enough that he knew the Sannin could barely hear. HMPF? Clones can't be that effective. Of course they are. Jiraiya cut in, brought out of his superior demeanor. I would see right through them, Naruto argued, acting as if he wasn't convinced. The man glanced at him, actually looking annoyed. There are enough things that can trick the Sharingan, brat. I wasn't talking about the Sharingan, Naruto said, pointedly rolling his eyes. Besides, only solid closes would be really handy. I intend to make a jutsu like that later on my own. Then I will become famous, he exclaimed, fighting down his grin by suppressing it to a smirk. A well-known Uchiha smirk, in fact. It is kind of scary that you are better at that smirk than I am. Obito cut in. Naruto flinched slightly as he thought about Sasuke. I just have a great example to copy. There are already clones like that, Jiraiya told him, not showing any awareness of the conversation between the two. Yet he looked somewhat suspicious and annoyed by the Uchiha arrogance that he hadn't seen from the boy before. Really? Yes. Like solid ones that can fight? Yes. Ones you can talk to? Yees. Can you actually make them? Naruto made sure he sounded skeptical, though on the inside he was jumping about. He was so close. Of course I can, twirly eye. The man, knocking him on the head, more forcefully than was necessary. The Uchiha rubbed his head, glaring at the man. You're probably just messing with me. Don't believe me? Who do you think I am? I am greatest toad hermit ever KN. His eyes twitched as noticed that Naruto was staring thoughtfully out in the distance, his cheek on leaning on his arm, not listening to him at all. Brat, he growled down at him, pulling him back by his scarf. Naruto broke out laughing, startling the man with the sudden shift. Ah, come on, Ero-sanin, if you can't do those so-called already existing clones, you can just say so. I wouldn't lose my respect for you. Well, maybe a bit. But you don't have to go through the whole I'm Jiraiya routine again. The gray eyes narrowed at the teenager. Kagebushin no jutsu, he spoke calmly. Poof. Yatta. Naruto mentally celebrated and was soon joined by Obito, who had come back halfway through conversation. Wow. Naruto voiced out loud, poking the clone in the arm. Kagebushin? So it is not a rock clone. No. The man said, crossing his arms as he smirked. Still his eyes were still studying Obito with some light suspicion. Sugoi. Nah. He turned around, letting his real excitement show through. Can you teach me? No. Ah, please. No. Ah, come on. I will do my best. Forget it, brat. If you make a clone like this, it might kill you. I need to hand you back to Minato in one piece. And alive for the matter, he added as an afterthought. Damn it. Sighing in disappointment, Naruto knew his ex-future sensei well enough that he had been serious about what he had said. Obito wasn't known for having chakra capacities large enough to support that kind of jutsu. Though they had grown, the ninja wouldn't be able to sense Naruto's own chakra, as it was carefully hidden away, and the part that did enter the chakra stream was released as soon as possible through Kagebushin. On the outside, Naruto adopted a slouching posture of defeat. It wasn't like he really needed Jiraiya to teach him. He knew the jutsu after all, but he needed an excuse to be able to use it other situations. Having been taught by the Sannin of all people would give him the perfect opportunity. Should have had my Sharingan on, he sighed. Then I could at least have an excuse to be caught with it. What did you say? The Sannin said coldly. It wasn't a question, and Naruto cringed mentally as he identified Jiraiya's tone. He was not happy. How could he have ignored the fact that Jiraiya had a knack for hearing soft voices and whispers? There was a reason why he was a spy master. Well, then I could have tried it on my own. He quickly defended himself and made sure to pout. He was still young enough to be forgiven. Somewhat. Though Naruto had expected the punch, it still hit harder than he had anticipated. That was going to leave a bruise. You think that you can just copy everything, don't you? Here I thought you might be a little different than that clan of yours. I don't know why Minato is so proud of you." The words hurt more than Naruto had anticipated as well. "I'm not like that." Not having expected anything but feeling hurt, the time traveler was surprised with the anger he suddenly felt. Obito shifted forwards as well, feeling even more frustrated and angry with the man for hurting his pride. Naruto didn't even pause to go along with the impulses, having gotten used to it and noticing that Obito's control suddenly became more influential than before. "What?" The Uchiha growled as he pushed himself from the ground, not taking note of his sudden increase in control. Instead, he glared at the Sannin, allowing his fury to shimmer through. His Sharingan flashed for a moment before it disappeared. "Clan of mine? Now listen to me, old man. I have learned everything my whole life the normal way. I actually haven't copied any jutsu with my eye yet. I wasn't going to quit working for my jutsu, but it doesn't help if nobody is willing to teach me anything." Not willing to tea. The man started, but Obito didn't listen to him. Minato-sensei was and is far too busy. Everyone is. Before they. He momentarily blanked out, remembering the horrible feeling of his bones being crushed under. He forcefully shook the memories off. Accident. He was too focused on Kakashi getting Jounin level. Rin was too busy with training at the hospital and helping out because of that damn war, but I managed to drag them along for sparring once in a while. I never complained about them being busy. I understood that Kakashi was more important than me in the war, no matter how much I despised it. Even though the clan barely wanted to teach me anything except for the fire jutsu that we are all taught because I was a loser. The rest was just to make sure I didn't completely destroy their reputation. They said I wasn't strong enough to know more than barely the average. He spat. Naruto couldn't quite put his finger on the expression that flashed across the Sannin's face, but Obito ignored it. "Now I am being looked after as if I'm a freaking ticking bomb. Babysat." He waved his arms between the two of them, and scrutinized simply for having somehow managed to get out of there without even knowing how. And fine. I have a seal and two personalities in my head, he admitted as he saw the Sannin open his mouth. "I'm now without a family. I can't even go to my aunt and uncle. I can't go and talk to my little nephew. They all think that I'm dead." Obito pointedly ignored the white lie that he just told, too busy with ranting to the man in front of him. He didn't yell. His tone was simply sharp and soft, as if keeping in mind the fact that they were hiding. Though many people believed otherwise, a whisper was often far better received than shouting, seeing as people were forced to pay more attention to what you were saying. "People won't even let me train. I might as well have died." Obito didn't finish that sentence, not sure if he really meant it, but it startled the Sannin anyway. "I need to get stronger. I want to get stronger. The last mission went so wrong. I should have seen it coming. I should have. Had I been 1 second too late, Kakashi would have." Naruto took a deep breath as Obito shifted back and he felt himself becoming slightly too emotional. Obito, though, was feeling exactly the same and it wasn't helping. Everything can go wrong, he finished for the boy, thinking about the dangers ahead. "Sorry," Obito said, realizing that he had just caused them to rant to his partner's beloved sensei. "No, I get it. I'm sick of all of this as well. Besides, Ero-sensei can be stupid like that. Want to switch again? You could withdraw for a while." "No, you need it more." Naruto was caught off guard as he was hit on the back of his head. Gently this time. "Stop spacing out Gaki," Jiraiya chided. Gaki. He had often called Naruto a Gaki in the future. Acting like nothing happened, he shot the man a determined glance. "You know what? Whatever. I will make my own solid clone jutsu. You just wait." Jiraiya seemed to be taken back by something. Maybe his expression, who knew? But Naruto didn't really care anymore. It seemed like he had to prove himself to the man again. Well, he was going to get the surprise of his life. He was about to say something else when a shout from a woman cut him off. "Pervert! I know you are here," said Pervert froze. Naruto turned around and walked away, but paused as his scarf was grabbed. He glared at the man, before he pointedly put his finger against his lips, threatening to yell if he didn't let go. Jiraiya weighed the decision for a moment before he released him. Without looking back at the man, Naruto turned around and stomped off louder than necessary. "There you are! Hey, coward!" Knowing that Jiraiya would follow him eventually. In the meantime, thoughts were swirling through his mind. He was going to show that perv. Still, how to improve the Kagebushin no Jutsu? The Uzumaki wasn't really a newbie when it came to inventing his own jutsu. Take his henge for example, the large amount of chakra that he used actually shaped and somewhat changed him instead of being a mere illusion. Sexy no Jutsu had been the prime example. Ebisu Perv hadn't just passed out from seeing the image of being surrounded by sexy woman. Naruto frowned. This was different though. "So you are going to change the jutsu?" "Yes, I'm going to show that Arobaka-sensei." "Do we really have time for that?" Naruto's expression became more serious. "Actually, more sturdy clones is just what we need. Even more important, if we somehow get you out there." Obito's eyes widened in surprise. "We would be able to fight against Madara more efficiently." Obito stayed silent for a while, trying to grasp the concept. "It was a pet project of mine in the future, so I know the basics, but the clones were never sturdy enough. I couldn't find the right way to create one. There was always something missing, nor did I have enough chakra control." Naruto continued to explain to the Uchiha, before he was taken aback by a rush of excitement from the boy. "So how are you going to start?" "By canceling my clones and They already cancelled," Obito told him, waving the issue away, clearly eager to learn more about his plan. Naruto paused mid-step. "What?" "They already cancelled about half an hour ago. They got a lot of training done by the way, but they had to poof away because people were getting too close." Obito impatiently explained, wanting to find more about this whole clone thing. He might be able to interact with people this time. Naruto frowned as he realized that he did indeed have the memories of the clones. In fact, he had even clearer memories than he usually had. Normally, he would be more aware of the transition of the memories. This time, however, he hadn't even noticed receiving them. Making 100 clones and releasing them in one go would usually give him a huge headache, which he often hid or suppressed before it would be healed by fuzzball. Another plus was that they were often destroyed after one another. During a fight, he had taught himself to let most of the memories slide by except for the more important parts. Now, he was more aware of the training that they had done than before. "Why? Did you do something?" "Well, it was very odd. There was suddenly a rush of memories, so I had to order them very quickly. I wasn't sure what else to do, so I kind of pushed them into a couple of trees." "I hope that you aren't Ma," Obito said, sounding somewhat nervous. "Sugoi," Naruto cut him off. "Huh. Obito, you are awesome," he continued to gush. The Uchiha blinked, confused. "Wah." "Now, since my memories are clearer, my chakra control must be." He shivered slightly as he felt that his chakra control had improved more than he had expected. His excitement returned tenfold. "Obito, I love you." Seeing as chakra control was essential for improving one's endurance, this was far better than learning more jutsu. Basically, if you had good chakra control, you could compromise for your lack of skills in other area much easier. Sakura's punches were a prime example of having perfect chakra control. Naruto shook with excitement as he became aware of the possibilities that he could explore. He suddenly felt like he was a step closer to getting this body ready for the confrontation that would come. "Eh!" The Uchiha shuffled away, not knowing what he was planning. "Now I only have to find a way to keep the clones stable for a longer period of time. Maybe a few that can take more hits. Naruto frowned. I don't have much time though. I only have about 9 months left. This sucks. About 9. Obito suddenly echoed, as if something occurred to him. Yeah, the QB attack, remember? Naruto shot back, annoyed with the idea that he might have forgotten. No, of course I didn't forget. It's just that. What? Well, Obito stalled before deciding to change the topic. Nah, about that jutsu. Don't change the topic. Tell me already. Naruto huffed, crossing their arms. Well, 9 months and all. You know? Naruto growled. Can you be even vaguer? You were born that nitrite. Obito rushed. Naruto, being used to talking very fast himself, didn't have too much trouble to decipher the sentence. I mean, Sensei and Kushina were kind of... Obito shook his head, not wanting to think about it. Naruto's mind blanked out when he realized that Obito was implying. Nu! My pure thoughts, Naruto wailed, mentally pulling on his hair. Obito's amusement took over his own mixed feelings and he snickered. Well, don't you want to be born? Oh, shut up, Naruto growled, shuddering. You were the one that start dash. Talking to your other self isn't very healthy. A familiar voice piped up right next to his ear. Reflexes kicked in and Naruto swirled around, kunai in hand. Nice reflexes. The Sannin complimented casually as he brushed the kunai away with a finger, as if he hadn't been about to be stabbed in the eye with it.
Naruto akaened.
Even though you have the proper background, brooding surprisingly doesn't suit you. What would you know about me? Naruto argued, feeling his annoyance rise again. I don't brood, he complained. Well, you do sometimes. Obito objected carefully. I do not. Well, there you go again, brat. It isn't healthy for you to keep talking to yourself like that. Not you as well, Naruto complained. Everyone tried to tell him to stop talking to Obito. It wasn't like they understood. Naruto attempted to walk away. Jiraiya followed him without a pause and frowned at him. Well, if more people tell you this, it might be true. Nobody gets it. Naruto sighed, moving his hand through his hair. He felt so tired and wary about this whole situation. Maybe that's because you don't tell anyone. Naruto turned around and locked his gaze with the man that looked so very much like the man that he traveled with. The Sannin that he had come to love and respect as the great teacher that he was, when he wasn't being a huge pervert. It was that moment that Naruto realized this was the perfect opportunity to tell the man next to him everything. Everything from the beginning till the end. He opened his mouth. Actually, he paused. Is this really the right time? Are you going to tell him? What if he doesn't believe me? What if they lock us up thinking that we are crazy? They sure wouldn't. What if they pry into our mind in order to get more info on the future? They wouldn't. Naruto couldn't help but have his doubts. He had seen worse decisions being made in the future. What has someone told him once? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yes, brat. Naruto made the decision anyway. It just that. Obito. The call was far away, but it had caught their attention anyway. They turned to see Rin running towards them. You were supposed to lunch with me, remember? She chided, shooting him an annoyed glare. You never forget. I was worried that something happened to you. Naruto wasn't listening. Damn it to hell, he growled. Just when I could tell him. Jiraiya shot the boy next to him a puzzled look before it was replaced with a more familiar leering grin. Well, you got yourself a date? Naruto started, which effectively brought out of his sour mood. Idan. It's not a. The Uchiha stuttered, a blush starting to form. He slowly backed away. Jiraiya would have none of it. I see. Well, let's go, brat. We can't keep a pretty lady waiting, the Sannin proclaimed and slung the boy on his shoulder once again. What? No. Let me go. What is wrong with you? I can walk, damn it. Naruto protested, punching the Sannin's back. Rin-chan, help. Why did they keep doing that? The girl smiled widely at him, her face obviously brightened by his suffix. He hadn't called her that often since he had returned, and it warmed her heart to hear the endearment. She was so caught up in her joy that she completely ignored his plea of help. Rin-chan, Jiraiya echoed, patting his bum teasingly. I see.
WH sto stupid ur gorg.
Naruto cried out, unable to properly express himself in his current predicament. Obito wisely decided to focus on Rin. By the time that Naruto had stopped I don't brood, finally collected himself, Jiraiya was already walking and inquiring Rin about her training progress in the hospital. Could you please let me go? Naruto tried. He was promptly ignored by the two of them. Naruto sighed and sadly glanced at the Sannin, realizing that the moment was gone. Still, would I have actually told him? He thought, slumping forward in defeat. He would probably never know. He would tell him later. Maybe. 3 days later. I must hand it to you, brat. You are very determined. Jiraiya suddenly spoke up with a hint of respect from the place that he watching the teenager train. Seeing as he was under the man's scrutiny during his training, Naruto wasn't able to show any flashy chakra skills, but that was why he and Obito had made sure to make a whole new batch of clones a few days ago. For now, he would just have to work on using his improving chakra control to be able to perfectly mold the clone that he was planning to make. At the moment, said clone was currently twitching like crazy on the ground and actually didn't look very much like a human at all. It hadn't been very solid either. It poofed out of existence not even a second after having been made. Damn. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Naruto let himself sit down for just a moment. Why isn't it working? He grumbled to himself. You don't have enough chakra for it. Jiraiya spoke up, helpfully, without looking up from his notepad. Yes, I have. Naruto kept silent, knowing very well that telling the man that he had a huge amount of spiritual chakra ready to be used at any moment wouldn't be very good for his suspicious image. I will figure it out. He protested instead, causing the Sannin to regard him pensively for a moment. Well, fine. 1 Kagebushin. Maybe you could manage it, but inventing a whole new type of solid clone takes so much more chakra than that gaki. Just wait and see, Naruto told the man, who shook his head at his irrational behavior. I'm so close, he complained. Close, Obito replied sullenly. We haven't been able to produce a clone with normal arms and legs yet. Are you giving up?
No.
Obito denied, crossing his arms. But I hoped that we might be able to meet up with Itachibi quick instead. What if I teach you the Kagebushin Gaki? Jiraiya suddenly spoke up. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as he turned to the man and mentally narrowed his eyes. What if? The man was testing him. Then I would learn it and make my own still, he stated with determination, not falling for it. The man stared at him for a moment, before he grinned at the teenager. You know what? He said, clearly amused. If you manage to figure out how to produce one solid clone on your own, I will teach you a jutsu besides the Kagebushin. More. The Sannin frowned and shot the Chunin a glare. More? The fact that I'm even offering to teach you one. More clones. Naruto elaborated. I'm going to make hundreds. Naruto grinned at the man, feeling very confident on the matter seeing as he was more than aware of the chakra that would be available to him. The white-haired man seemed caught off guard. Dreaming is good, kid. He started slowly. But maybe you are overdue. I'm going to do this, Ero-sensei. The Uchiha shot the man a determined look who blinked at his new suffix. And then you are never going to be able to teach me as much jutsu as I can make clones, he proclaimed, laughing as he turned back to this intense training, knowing that time was ticking. How are the clones doing? Good. Team 1 still has enough chakra for the water walking exercise for a few hours. Team 2 is going through a couple of methods to make them stronger. Combining them with earth seems like a possible theory that might work. Team 3. Naruto and Obito were far too busy to notice the thoughtful eyes that were boring into their back. Maybe, the Sannin muttered, before smirking. Maybe I will. 1 week later. The clones canceled themselves again. Obito pointed out. Again. Naruto repeated in dismay. This was the 10th time this week. I seriously need a better training spot, he told Obito, who nodded in agreement. If you didn't have a clone on the lookout with the awesome chakra you have, we would have been in deep trouble. The boy agreed. Well, you are glad that I'm so awesome, Naruto teased him, mentally puffing out his chest. Obito laughed at his silliness. Still, if I could just get that damn chakra thing to work out, Naruto grumbled. Then I could stop hiding them and become more effective. Obito nodded in agreement. Can I train now? Obito then asked, eager to get some control again. Naruto, having been very aware of how restless Obito had been, shifted back ever so slightly. Obito still couldn't control the body on his own. It would barely make baby steps if he did. Naruto tried to encourage his partner that it was a lot of improvement, but Obito couldn't help but feel annoyed by the slow process. It's just, I want to be able to move, you know? He had told Naruto. In the real world, not just the mindscape. Kyuubi had loudly and pointedly wholeheartedly agreed with that comment, which had caused both boys to flinch ever so slightly. Having practiced this many times before, Obito didn't take long to shift to their usual arrangement of, well, one could call it sharing thoughts and intentions. Try to use some chakra, Naruto piped up. All right, let's start easy. Obito thought, feeling somewhat nervous about actually controlling his own chakra. Naruto didn't even pause to follow them and went through the hand seals that the boy directed. Fire release, great fireball technique. It was almost natural for the Uchiha to use the jutsu, but instead of the natural color that they had been expecting, it turned slightly yellow and had a far larger range than expected. Caught off guard, Obito barely managed to keep himself from inhaling his own flames. Coughing, he waved away the smoke that appeared along with it and stared with wide eyes at the burning grass. That was the natural chakra's doing. Naruto filled in for the boy. We are absorbing it faster because our control is improving. Sugoi, Obito thought, gagging as he realized that he may have inhaled some smoke. Also, it seems that your chakra control is far greater than mine. Naruto continued. Really? Yes. In fact, maybe we could. As seemed to be a habit, just as their conversation became important, it was disrupted by a visitor.
Bito-kun.
Obito spun around upon hearing the loud greeting and was promptly tackled by a red blur. It took him only a moment to realize who had just attacked him. It was nearly impossible for him to forget her. Naruto seemed to have concluded the same as he felt his body freeze to the point that it nearly hurt. Naruto, Obito called out. Naruto snapped out of it. Mom, Naruto breathed.
Obito-kun.
What did you say something? The woman asked, still hugging him firmly. No, nothing. Naruto stuttered, openly staring at the woman in front of him. He had already met her, of course, but she was now in front of him. Real, breathing, alive. For a moment he clung to her, I haven't seen why. The woman's future son was suddenly pulled back and Obito struggled in an effort to remain standing. Damn it, Naruto. The woman didn't notice their inner conflict and laughed. Of course. Silly me. I shouldn't have scared you. It's just. She pulled away from him and brushed a tear away from her eye. I threw that you were, well, you know. Obito numbly nodded, unable to do anything else since Naruto was still pretty much in shock. The Uchiha was happy to see Kushina as well. He liked the woman very much. She had become more like a mother to him in certain aspects. She always invited him over to her house and to eat dinner if the clan issues became too much, and she always encouraged his enthusiasm. Naruto's reaction, while understandable, was making it difficult to move. Naruto really had to snap out of it because Obito was getting worried. Kushina suddenly frowned and held him a little tighter. A shiver ran down Obito's spine. Oh no. Kyubi. Did she notice something? Are you sure that you are all right, Obito? There was something about her tone that made him paranoid. It took a little more effort to nod this time. Is something wrong? Shaking his head was becoming more difficult. What is happening? Obito, you are not all right. Snap out of it. Kushina called out, shaking him more forcefully this time. Where is Jiraiya? She asked forcefully and worriedly, feeling unsure on whether to get him to the hospital or to get the pervert. At the river. Obito managed to mutter, shifting his eye to the right into the direction he knew the pervert was researching. Just after having relayed the location, Obito lost control and he felt his body fall forward. His momentum hadn't been centered, causing Obito to collapse against the woman in front of him. In panic, Obito let his eye roll to the back and went into his mindscape to search for Naruto. Mindscape. Naruto. Over here, came the shaky voice. Sorry, there were a lot of memories. Even though the young man seemed strained, there was a happy glint in the ninja's eye. Obito felt somewhat relieved that Naruto had been able to see the memories of his mother, seeing as he had always had a lot of fun with her. He deserved a little break every once in a while, Obito thought. No matter that the future might depend on it, if Naruto was going to push himself too far, they would be in bigger trouble. No, he was going to make sure to keep an eye out for him. She's a great woman, Obito agreed. Are you sure that you are all right? Yeah. We will have to seal me to you soon though. But you said that I didn't have enough control of the body yet. Obito argued, worried. In about a week, I'm probably, well, you know, Naruto told the boy, referring to the fact that his birthday was nearly 9 months away. It would probably be better to seal me to you now than to get in danger of being called to the infant's body. Obito nodded in understanding before snorting. What? No, I just thought about you fighting Madara as a baby, Obito said, shooting his scarred mirror image a grin. Naruto rolled his eyes, but his lips twitched, unable to repress the smile completely. The two of them sat silently for a while before Naruto spoke up again, grinning loudly. You know, she's even more beautiful in real life. Obito grinned widely at him, glad that the older ninja had calmed down. Wanna go back? She's probably chewing out the perv for leaving you there. Alright, sorry about leaving you hanging by the way. Don't worry about it, Nissan. Naruto stared at him for a moment as Obito's eyes widened in surprise. He twitched. Don't worry about it. Thanks, Naruto said, looking even brighter than before. You're welcome. I will see how Fuzzy is holding up, he told the blonde. Who are you calling Fuzzy, you ugly little bald? A deep voice growled. I see Fuzzball is awake again, Obito said brightly, having gone long past the stage of being frightened to interact with the demon fox. The fact that said demon had decided that the Uchiha was not that bad in comparison to his other relatives seemed to help. Not that it made their name-calling less frequent. If anything, it only made it worse seeing as Obito dared to talk back. You little punk. You should learn some resp. Naruto shook his head in amusement, took a deep sigh and allowed himself to slip back to consciousness. Act normally. You can space out later, he told himself. Back to reality. Baka, you can't leave him unsupervised. Something was wrong with him. You and your stupid, perverted book. He slowly became more aware of the loud voice chiding the old man that seemed to be careful to remain very quiet. Kushina, he called out, feeling somewhat disorientated.
Obito-kun.
Naruto steadied himself as he felt himself being hugged by his mother.
I'm all right.
I just blacked out for a moment, he assured her. Some memories sprung up on me. There was a long silence as Kushina blinked down at him. Memories? She echoed, before sending Jiraiya a glare as if it was his fault. What is going on here? Jiraiya held his hand up in surrender. Now Kushinaheim, there is really no need to look at me like that. Then explain to me what I have missed. The two boys didn't take long to follow her order. 15 minutes and a summary later, the tomato sported a frowning expression. I see. But how the hell did you get out? I don't know, Naruto said, glad that the seal covered this in order to make his admission sincere. He didn't think he could have lied to his mother face to face otherwise. She eyed him suspiciously for a moment. So that seal in your mind, has the hentai looked at it yet? No, he hasn't. Why not? I'm right here, Jiraiya grumbled. Well, Inoichi-san can't risk visiting my mind too often. That is all I know. Hey, Jiraiya called, trying to get their attention. Can I see it as well? I don't think so, Naruto said, scratching his neck.
DR.
Minato-sensei tacked along last time. I don't know how many people can go. Inoichi will pick your brain in a few days again. I will be tagging along this time. Naruto swirled around and stared at the toad Sannin. Shit. There was a reason why Naruto had started the seal with the help of the Sannin. He was the one that had taught him nearly everything that he knew. He had the experience to see what was going on with the seal. Minato had already been a risk on its own, but he had luckily missed the second layer. However, Jiraiya would surely notice. Why you? Why so nervous? The tone seemed teasing, but the look in the man's eyes told him something else. Because you are a pervert, Naruto defended, saying the first thing that came to mind. I can't corrupt you when you are already corrupted, brat, Ero-sensei told him, rolling his eyes, but the glint in his eyes disappeared. Already corrupted? Kushina repeated, sending Obito a pointed look. What does he mean by that? Both men started sweating. Nothing, they chorused. She obviously didn't believe them, but decided to let the topic go for this once. Instead, she glared at them suspiciously for a moment before she pulled Naruto in another hug. It's good to have you back, Obito-kun. Thanks. He thanked her, though he tensed when he felt another spark at her contact. Was QB number 2 reacting to him? Did Kushina notice? She didn't seem to notice, Naruto thought, studying her expression. He would have to be very careful around her, but nonetheless he would enjoy every moment of it. 2 days later. I got it, Naruto exclaimed as he and Obito stared at the stars in their mindscape. Obito, with whom he had been talking about what the stars might actually represent in their mind, started. You know what the stars are? Let's wake up Fuzzy, Naruto exclaimed, grabbing the Uchiha by the arm and dragging him along. Come on. Obito frowned. Does QB know what they are? No, not the stars. The clones. Obito groaned. Naruto and I-san, you have tried hundreds of methods already. Not to mention all those clones that you let experiment. Shut up. I finally got it. Iki Wubi. The fox snored loudly. Stop faking Foxy-kun, we know that yo. What did you call me? See, you are awake. Now can you help us with? Why can't you brats understand how powerful I am? I am the feared. You are as bad as Ero-sensei, Naruto pointed out, crossing his arms. You dare to compare me with that senile, perverted, smelling, slimy monkey? Naruto growled. Don't Ero-sensei senile, you big. Obito sighed as he watched them bicker from the sidelines. I can't believe that I'm getting used to having Sensei's future time-traveling son and the most powerful demon fox bickering in my mind. He muttered to himself and sat down on the ground. Might as well enjoy it, the Uchiha thought as he watched them argue. He winced when Kyuubi shot a big insult to Naruto, resulting in the ninja shooting another one back. This might take a while. A few days later. You brats are lucky that I decided to help you on this. Yeah, whatever. Insolent Gaki. If I hadn't supplied you with this inspiration, your tiny brain would have never thought of it. His fist clenched around the handle of the kunai. Nearly there. He encouraged himself as he wiped away the sweat dripping down his forehead with the back of his sleeve. Focus your chakra again, Obito, but in a greater amount this time. If necessary, use nearly 70%. Try to ignore my chakra. Hi. Obito's strained voice answered. I'm ready. Cutting himself once again, Naruto poured the small pool of blood on the stone in front of him and focused on his chakra. More specifically, a mix of his natural chakra and Obito's controlled chakra, as he put his hand into the small puddle. The advantage of his obsessive use of Kagebushins was that he actually didn't rely as much on the hand seals anymore. They would make it very easy to focus, but it was more about intention than anything else. A habit, maybe. There wasn't a poof of smoke. Instead, there was a hiss as the blood started boiling. He quickly retracted his hand in order to save it from getting burned. He watched with cool and calculating eyes as the blood started to morph into a body, increasing the amount of blood in the process. His eyes narrowed as the clone that had formed stood silently in front of him, waiting to be inspected. After having spent years of training through extensive use of clones, they had come far. It was exhausting, but definitely worth it. Move! Naruto ordered the clone, not wanting to destroy it by poking it first thing. The clone, an exact replica of himself, followed the order and started walking in a small circle in front of him, ran for a short distance and jumped a few times. Speak! Hi, air. What would you want me to say, Nissan? That would be enough, Naruto said, feeling his excitement rising. How are you feeling? Not like I'm going to explode for once. Obito II grinned. He flexed his muscles. I feel good. I could take a few hits, I think. Well, that is the whole idea, Naruto told him with some fake arrogance and then bowed curtly. Nice to talk to you in real life, Obito. Nice to meet you as well. Obito grinned before playing along and bowed as well. It feels strange to share my mind with you and yet be in this chakra body though. I feel odd. Naruto held out his hand and the Obito clone neared, knowing what Naruto was going to look for. Naruto carefully squeezed his hand, shoulder, poked him and prodded for a few minchus before he finally grinned. Yada! He whispered to himself, careful to remain quiet. Obito echoed him with the same excitement. This is so. Shoo! Naruto hushed him. He didn't want to draw the attention of the others. Why aren't you telling them? Obito asked, suddenly confused. I have a plan to give us an excuse of having a layered seal. How? Well, another ninja did it. Obito's sweat dropped. What? That's your plan. What's wrong with it? Well, for one, we don't have another ninja to tell them he or she did it. Second, why don't we just tell them? Third, use henge. Naruto interrupted him. Obito blinked. Henge? Really? Your whole body consists of blood, my blood, and chakra. Blood is a very good chakra conductor, so in a way your henge is simply a transformation. You change the form of the chakra. They can't see through it because that is simply what you are. Cool. Maybe this was going to work after all. The plan was shaky and would need work, but there was still hope. They grinned. Obito, Kushina's voice called out from the distance. Quick, cancel the clone. Naruto hissed, hearing Kushina coming closer as she was looking for him. I can't. Naruto tried to do it himself, but it didn't work. What the hell? Hit me. Thud. Wow, this is awesome. Obito told Naruto dizzily from where he laid on the ground, referring to the ability to take multiple hits. I'm still here though. Run then. Go to the clones. Hi. Obito stuttered, rushing away. Obito. Naruto opted his best innocent expression. Hi. Who was that? Kushina asked, staring in the direction where Obito had disappeared to. Just some weird ninja? It was more a question than a statement. The woman's eyes narrowed. You just talked to him? He was saying strange things, like I should know him or something. Naruto told her, scratching his cheek. Really? Yeah, he kept asking question. I told him to bugger air to leave. Then he went away when he heard you call me. Kushina frowned at him and gave him a pointed look. Is that so? Ah man, not that look. Naruto mentally shuddered. He was so screwed.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.